Everyone, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the masking tool here in Lightroom. Now, what are masking tools? Masking tools let you apply an adjustment to one specific area of a photo rather than the entire image. So for example, since we know how to use the editing panel in Lightroom, the editing panel allows you to change usually the entire image. Like let's say for example that you adjust the temperature slider. If I lean it towards the blue, notice that everything in the photo gets blue. But let's say that you really only wanted the subject to turn blue. And that's where masks come in. We could make a selection of just the subject and then change the color. But there's lots of things you can do to change, so the adjustments are rather endless. So let's go ahead and find our masking tool. Our masking tool is here on our toolbar. And notice all the different options. So these are all different ways to make selections so that you can make adjustments to certain areas of the image. Many of these are AI controlled, meaning Lightroom is going to help you out to make selections for you. Those ones are subject, sky, background, objects, as well as the people option. So when you click on these, they might go a little bit slow because Lightroom is going to help you to figure out what the subject, sky, background, object, or person is in the photo that you're trying to make a selection of, and it's going to do it for you. The other ones like brush, linear, gradient, and the range options, color and luminance, are ones that you do manually, meaning you control them yourself. So let's go through the different ones and I'll show you how they work. So we're just going to go ahead and go in order. So the first one is called subject. So it's going to automatically select what it thinks is the most prominent part of the image. And it works really well with people, animals, or really any sort of objects that stick out. Now, Lightroom is not always going to make a perfect selection. As you can see here, it thinks that the subject is also part of where the chair is. So we can make adjustments. I'm going to show you how to do that now before I show you how to use some of the other tools. So here on the right hand side, so first off, the red that you're seeing is called the color overlay. All this means is it's showing you what has been selected in the image so that you can change it. It in no way affects the image. You can actually turn it on and off, but anytime you hover over the image, it's going to show you where that selection is. So that's all it is it's showing you a selection. Here is the mask. The mask is showing you what's being selected as well. The white area is the selection, and the area that's black is not being selected. Okay. So you can actually have multiple masks here. So anytime that, well, I'm going to make a change here in a moment, but if we wanted to add more masks to this one photo, we would add a mask here and it will give us those same options that I showed you earlier. Now, let's just talk about this selection here. Lightroom didn't do a perfect job making a selection of a subject. So if I needed to add to this selection or subtract from it, I could. And I think that I'm going to go ahead and do that because there's a little bit too much being selected. So I want to make sure this mask is selected, and then I'm going to subtract. Now you can subtract using any of the different masking options. So I'm going to actually show you how to use the brush tool, which I find to be a very easy tool to use because it just works like a brush. You can make changes to the brush here, which includes size. Feathering is how soft the edges of your brush is, so the higher the number, the softer the edge of the brush. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure my overlay is on so I can see it. And I'm going to subtract. Oops. Let's make sure we are on this mask, and then we are going to subtract from it using the brush. All right, and notice that as I'm painting, the areas that are turning black are the parts that are being removed from the mask. So I'm just going to paint away the chair area. Okay, and that's not perfect, but that's going to work for now. Okay, so now I could make a change of some kind. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the overlay off. Now if I select the mask again, I can scroll down and it gives me options of how I might want to change or adjust that selection that I just made. So I can change anything about light. So for example, if I found it to be really dark there, I could change the exposure. And notice again, it's just affecting that area that was selected. And I could do anything else here. I could also do the change in color. Remember I talked about earlier the temperature. So if I just wanted to change the temperature of that particular area, I could. I can change the color. So there's endless amounts of options as you keep scrolling. There's also effects and detail and so on. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and delete this mask. I'm going to go ahead and delete all masks to show you how to do the rest of these. Now, most of them work the same as subject, at least the AI controlled ones. The next one would be sky. Now this image doesn't have any sky in it, but if I did have like a landscape photo, this would help to automatically select the sky in the photo, which AI would help me do. I could though do the background for this image, so it's going to do what it did with the subject one, but the opposite. It's going to select everything but the subject. And you can see here with the red overlay that it did a pretty good job. I could subtract from using the brush and make our brush a little bit smaller and fix the area here where my jacket's hanging down. And then I could go ahead and make an adjustment with just the background. Maybe I wanted the background to be really dark, or maybe I want it to be a different color, more saturated. Maybe I want the background to be black and white, which that looks really cool. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and delete those masks and show you how to do some other ones. Alright, the object one works the same way. So it helps again to select objects. Subject and objects are kind of they're very similar. This is also an AI one, but instead of doing it for you, you do kind of make a painted area of, you paint over an object to select it. So if I painted over myself, it doesn't have to be very precise, but then AI is going to go ahead and make a selection for me, and you can see there that it did a pretty good job. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete that mask. All right, now we're getting to the more manual ones here. We've already used the brush one, so I'm going to go ahead and skip to the linear gradient. So this is the type of edit where it's going to help to gradually fade. So notice on the little image it's showing you on the screen here that the very dark red is going to be a more intense edit, and then it's going to slowly fade away. This can help with balancing a bright sky. In this case, I don't have any sky, but if I wanted the bottom of the image to be darker, I would click here in the bottom, drag upwards, and notice that red overlay. I can control how much edit I want. And even once I set it down, I can go ahead and still make adjustments. And I can do that with any of these masks. So just keep that in mind that they are non-destructive. So you can delete them at any time. You can change the actual edit you made, but you can also just adjust them. So if I don't like how much of an edit I did here, I could change it later. All right, and notice that it's going to kind of taper off. So it should be a really strong edit here at the bottom and then just kind of fade away. So maybe I drop the exposure and notice what happens there. I don't get this harsh line, I get this gradual fade, which is what a gradient should do. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and keep that edit, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can add multiple masks. So I'm going to go up to the top to create a new mask, and I'm actually going to add a radial gradient, which is the same idea here. It's just round. So this time I'm going to click, hold, and drag to make a round radial gradient. And again, just like the other ones, you can change it. Now I know you're seeing concentric circles here, so what you can do is you can adjust not only the shape of it and the size, but you can also adjust how much it fades. So the strongest part of the radial gradient is going to be here in the center, and then how much it fades is on the end. So when this smaller, the inside circle is smaller, you're going to have a more gradual fade on the edge. When this center circle is bigger, you're going to have less of one. So it's really up to you here. So I'm going to go ahead and do just a quick little edit. Maybe I'll brighten that area up a little bit. All right. Ooh, but let's say actually what I wanted to do was, instead of brightening this inner part, what if I wanted to do the opposite? What if I wanted to actually do the outer part of this image? That would be called making an invert. So I'm going to invert this mask. I'm going to go up here and select it. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the three little dots here. Let me go and do that again. So here's my mask 2. You can see here that that's my radial one, and it also shows up red. I'm going to click the little three dots here, and I'm going to invert it, and it's going to do the exact opposite. Notice how the color switched here, and now the red overlay is affecting the outside. And maybe this time I would actually adjust it the opposite way. I could do whatever edit I wanted to. All right, we have a couple more. I'm going to go ahead and delete my masks just to start fresh and show you how to do the last two, which are the ranges. So we've got color range, which is going to help to isolate colors, so we can choose a particular color or colors and change them in some way. So it tells us to click anywhere to select a color. You can also drag over an area to select a range of colors, and you can hold down Shift to add more and Alt to remove them. So if I wanted to change the color of these walls, I could either click once, like I did here, or I can click, hold, and drag. If I wanted to add more, I hit Control. I can go ahead and click again. Alrighty. I'm actually going to undo that because I thought this first one was pretty good. Now you can actually make more of an adjustment here with color range, and you can refine it. You could do less of a selection, more of a selection, and then we could do something like change the color. So if I wanted to turn the walls a little bit more of a cool tone, I could go ahead and do that. All right, now the luminance color range is actually very similar, and it works in a very similar way. The only difference here is that you are changing the brightness of the image, which is the luminance, but it works the same way. So I could click of an area like this really bright area in the background. If I click on that, and again, if I feel like it selected too much, I could maybe change my range. There we go. And then maybe I darken the exposure, which that looks kind of insane, but it does show you how the edit works. Now, the last one that I didn't use, which is a rather new option, is the people one. It works pretty much the same way as the subject and sky does, in that AI has made the selection for me. I can create a new mask that way as well. So it just gives a lot of different ways to do it. So that's how you use masks in Lightroom. Now this is a little bit more technical. If you have these options, it does not only select the person as a whole, but you can also do more specifics. If I just wanted to select the skin of the face or body, eyebrows, very specific things, I could make changes to those. So it's just a way to take off some of the work from us and let Lightroom do its thing.